I think if you did a backwards entry competition between Nakamura and James Deane, you'll sell the place out.
Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm here today with a channel that used to be smaller than me, but rapidly grew and is now bigger. This is Dave Egan from Drift Games. So hello.
Hello.
Hello. All right, so we're here today at the first Drift Week 6 track at Cam's Acres, and instead of talking about anything he thinks we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna bamboozle him. What do you think the topic is?
Oh, it's always drift masters and events, usually events.
Oh, damn it. He's probably pretty good at that. What specific thing about events? I'll lead him into this.
Scale, usually you talk to me about how to do scale, like the big events.
No, well, maybe. Well,
I'll answer whatever you want, you know.
No, it's like asking your female, your spouse, your woman, whatever, what they think you're gonna take them to dinner, and then they guess, and you take them in the first place.
Yeah, and then they're disappointed. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, so anyways, I'm not gonna do that. I actually had a topic picked out. So anyways, today we're gonna ask him about Drift Week 7. I'm gonna bamboozle him into, so the whole point of this is you're an excellent event host, and I think we should do something where we combine powers somehow, and I don't know how, but this is gonna be our brainstorming session.
What about you, Aaron, is you have these discussions live to many people.
I know.
Mostly it's like, let's have a meeting behind closed doors. But this is actually where some of the best ideas have come from, is these interviews in the past.
No, you can't back out. That's the point.
Oh, I see. I'm liable now because it's been said on video.
Yep. No, but you did the LZ Festival.
Yes.
You're very good at promoting things.
I do okay.
I'm bringing over Nakamura. I have all the tracks booked. I have all this stuff going on. I have 2 different tracks that we're going to be doing public day stuff on. One at Honda Musselman Circuit, which your boys have been to, but you haven't.
They said it's really good.
It's amazing. I think maybe we could pack 2,500 people in there if we try really hard. I mean, really hard.
Yeah.
And then I have Adam's kart track, which is much smaller, but it's inside LA, which
it's got the footfall. Yeah, the footfall from LA. So
I'm not sure what to do about that. And I was thinking if I combine Adam, it gets too big almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I combined you and we do something cool, you get to bring something and do some type of event here where maybe it's just that you can sell a ton of merch, or you can do something. I don't know what it's worthwhile, but some of you YouTubers sell merch. I don't. But you know, like, what can we do? Synergy here. What can we do? What would you want to do? How do we make this work?
I haven't thought about it.
How do I get you guys here?
Logistics for us from Europe is sometimes quite tricky. Events for us can work. In the US, we haven't done any yet, but the merch is tricky because sometimes you have to print a lot of merch and then you can't bring it back with you because of customs and stuff like that. But we're looking at doing a little bit more in the US next year in terms of in general merch with some different events, so that might be possible. We are definitely looking at the US as a bit more of a, we kind of come here like tourists, but we feel like next year we might like to do something a little bit more formal because it's just somewhere we haven't done anything formal before. I mean, we've done Europe, we've done Ireland, UK, we've done Middle East, but US, not to take anyone...
Wait, you scab? Stay out of my region.
No, as in exactly the collaborations. Like, as in, we like collabing with people all the time because it brings what people already know, but then another little bit of spice on top. And I think when we collaborated with LZ in Ireland, I mean, we did an event that we've done before, but the collaboration made it exciting for everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like 2 worlds colliding. I think that works best across. I mean, you look at the Marvel universe, you know, they were all doing pretty good, but they did a lot of money when they put them all into one film. And that's kind of how I think drifting works well, is when you take a lot of different personalities that would never be together before.
So I just realized he's thinking too big. I'm thinking one little drift event thing with Nakamura, and like we have a bunch of YouTube characters and stuff, and he's thinking way bigger than I am.
No, I'm thinking same. I don't want to go huge. I'd like to do something fun, just different. We do these events in Ireland and the UK, not Ireland at the moment, called the Drift Games Bash, where it's kind of like what you do here. And it's fun for us to do it, but we've now started, we've one in December, we're collaborating with Jimmy Oakes on. He's coming over to just kind of appear at the event and drive one of our cars. And it showed us that I think people need some sort of spice on top to get interested about an event. So I think Drift Week obviously has that with so many different personalities. LZ festivals have that with Adam involved and everybody else. So I think, like we spoke before in Ireland, you can't really just say, come to the drifting anymore. You've got to give it a little bit of a trailer, like a movie, you know, where there's something, a reason. If you don't come to this one, you're not going to see this anywhere else. And I think the Nakamura stuff is great because, like, where are you going to see him drive in the US? So people who like him or are into his style, that's a lot of drifters. they have to go there to see it, which is a great thing. And people like going places. They just need a little bit of encouragement. And I think that's what you're doing right with that. But how we synergize and do all that, I don't know. If you want me to just come and announce and have some fun and drive a car and stuff, I'm down for that too.
And of course, Drift Week has the best sponsors such as BC Racing Custom Coilovers, Vape Tasia, Heatwave Visual, NK Wheels, WhatMonstersDo.com. Use the discount code EBISU. And of course, ECU Master for building the James Deane car and coming on this trip with us. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, he's turning me down. I just got turned down.
I'm not turning you down. You said, what will we do? And I'm like,
yeah, what are we going to do?
I'd see, for me,
this is how we plan stuff out one whole cycle in advance.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm more of a, if I have, say for instance, how I plan an event is different. I take a little bit of time on it because I'm more of a, if I've got a long plane journey or a long drive, I'll think about it for 2-3 hours and try and figure out what I can come up with in that time. I'm not like the most talented on the spot person. You're much more on the spot than me. I find it fascinating how you can just go, we're gonna do this. And then he just does it. And I'm like, but okay, it's happening. And you know what I mean, you jump straight in. Where I'm a little bit more cautious, but I think that just comes from the fact that I've run bigger events that have more consequence sometimes. And that's why I'm kind of more cautious of like, will it work or not?
Maybe I'm thinking of you as like the Jimmy Oaks character. Maybe you're a character here in America.
I don't know how I'm a character here, but maybe.
I don't know either.
Novelty of Irish people coming to the US, I think. Or people who are not out of, like we were saying this before, you know, just to put it out there, it was like, you know, they said to me, oh, they brought me to Clutch Kickers to drive a car, and they're like, this will be good for our promotion in Europe and stuff, you know? And I was like, you need more promotion? You have like LZ and Colette and Hurt and all this stuff. So I think people may be more fascinated by, you know, it's the same in Ireland. We'll bring James Deane to an event and people will say, well, fine, we can see James all the time. But when you bring him here, it's much more of a big deal. So I think, yeah, of course, when you bring someone a long distance and they're more unusual, it does attract a bit more. I don't know about us now. We're not at the level the boys are at. But as I said, I'd be totally up for coming.
You know what's interesting is simply having you at the first LZ festival announcing and all that stuff was good enough. You're doing some YouTubing and everything. Everything doesn't have to be a big collaboration or you do much, especially because he's turning me down.
I'm not turning you down. You have to give me some details.
There's no oh, I have the details. I have dates, I have people, I have everything.
Well,
my point
you tell me, because it's your event. So you tell me what you'd like me to do.
Oh, I don't know. I was putting you on the spot to come up with
What he's really doing is trying to get me to come up with more stuff. He's running out of ideas. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just I'd have to have a think about how I'd add value, you know? The last thing I want to do is go anywhere and feel like I'm on a free ticket. So I always feel like if I make a good value for anyone and it makes sense, then I want to make sure that I deliver on that because it's my reputation at the end of the day. If I go somewhere and people benefit from it, and it's happened in the past in different championships, I want to make sure they're doing better than me because then you always get invited again, or you keep the whole show on the road, you know?
Yeah. If I was to come up with specific things, the most simplistic thing would be to have you in, like as a star there. Again, I don't know if people up until they reach like 500,000 or 1 million YouTube subscribers are big enough a star to like really attract enough people. Definitely James Deane does because he's, you know, the greatest driver, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And people are out there, kind of like Nakamura. Nakamura only has like 9,000 YouTube followers, but he has, and when I posted the Instagram like flyer, I think I got more likes than he did or whatever on the flyer because I was kind of just paying attention to the metrics of like if it's worthwhile bringing him and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I talk to people on the app, because I basically filled up of all the new drivers for applications within the first 48 hours, then I held some spots back because I want to, you know, hold some spots back for international because those people take longer to register.
Yeah.
They need to think about it. They're going to get divorced over it. But I was going to say, like, I almost immediately was able to sell out of spots. And then I would ask drivers, I'm like, are you here for the Nakamura or for Drift Week? And they're like, well, we're here for Drift Week. And they're like, I just thought it was going to fill up if Nakamura was coming. Or like, I'm excited for Nakamura, but like, if I'm going to take 2 weeks off and do all this, it's Drift Week. So I was going to say, sometimes it gets confusing what the real draw is. But I think like if you can put icing on the cake, such as Nakamura, such as yourself, such as Adam, such as all these different things, such as James Deane, it gets everybody pumped to be somewhere, just like your bash event at the end of the year.
For sure.
So if I could collaborate, I don't like the word collaborate, but if like I can get the gang back together, you know, like the band and all these things and keep things going, and obviously people fall out, like Adam hasn't been to every Drift Week now because he had to go do some RTR stuff. It's funny how there's cars in the background. You know, like he's not going to be there all the time. Or, you know, Chelsea ended up not being able to make it for the same reason. I think he was doing a bunch of RTR stuff. So we lost Chelsea. But as long as we have a bunch of people on top, such as yourself or James or Jimmy is here, or all these different people. It keeps things hyped online.
Yeah.
And you can't let the hype die.
No, for sure. And I think we're also here for a number one reason of coverage and showing what we're doing, more so than just driving. Obviously, we costs us to be here. We need to make sure it returns for our sponsors, for everything that we do. So if somebody's going to invest in us for us to go here, we have to make sure that the content matches it, which is a good thing for an event organizer, because when I did the LZ Festival, I knew every single person that was there was going to make a video about it. And this was good promotion for us, for the brand of Drift Games, because we were obviously, we were growing, but you know, that accelerates things because you get put on the map by all those guys, and they have a genuine reason to put you on the map rather than you're not paying them or anything. They just, you're facilitating a fun weekend for them, so they're happy. So I think that's very similar with you. It's like, we respect that you create events, and we want those events to go as well for you as possible, because we want you to be in 2 or 3 years' time building big events and doing big things we can come to. So it's like a team effort rather than a selfish effort, and I think that's why bringing the likes of James or Adam or whatever, they bring that hype. And also, if you have James Deane and Nakamura driving together, I think that's that'll be something that people will want to see from a spectator point of view, maybe.
Oh wait, did he want to come to number 7, you mean?
Hey, after this week you can ask him, but maybe. I'm sure James Deane going somewhere to drift is not hard. It's not hard to get.
Not a hard thing to do. That's funny. We'll see how well that car runs and everything.
Yeah.
That would be pretty wild though if he came. I had something very awkward happen, and I can't say much about it. But now there's famous people that want to come to Drift Week, but they don't necessarily want to be upstaged by someone else. You ever have that happen with the events you're doing?
No, not yet. Well, thankfully. I do think people will question if we have brought them. I've had it before with Formula Drift drivers coming to Ireland when we used to bring them to compete, that they don't want to be in a car that's not competitive, and it makes it look like they're not up to the standard. And that can happen naturally. Do you think the car is better than it is, or you think it can be they're a little bit too nervous and maybe they're so comfortable in their current setup chassis, you know, they're not easy to jump into something else. So I don't know. I mean, we've had a few instances with it. We had Nakamura come to Ireland and he didn't qualify. So
oh, what happened? The car was bad, or?
The car was okay, but I think he tried to overdrive the car to be Nakamura, and the judging system was line-based, so he ended up, he spun in the gravel, I think, and then he was overdriving. I think maybe putting a little too much pressure on himself to be what everybody expected him to be. And it might have, if he had toned it down a little, he probably would have been fine. But it was one of those things. I mean,
interesting.
We were bringing him for a competition, so it wasn't for like an open day. So it's tough when you bring people and you go, well, I'm not changing any rules or making it easier for this driver to get in or whatever. So unfortunately, it didn't work out so well for him. We brought Daigo. He did very well. Other people did very well. You know, in the past, Forrest Wang did very well. So it depends. And sometimes it depends on those guys looking at it like, no matter what car they give me, I'll drive really well, or some might not adapt very well to other chassis or things that they're given. So who knows? But Nakamura, he's a very talented driver, and especially in a freestyle environment, he's very entertaining, like hugely entertaining.
Yeah, he just won D1, I think, 2 years in a row, the whole series. That's incredible, especially for someone that like is a jazz player like him that just goes crazy.
Like that's not.
Especially because like they have that DOS system, which is computer done.
Yeah, it's
that's kind of weird.
But he still managed to figure it out, and like he's a bit of a square, and if drifting was a circle, he's a bit unusual. But I think that's the appeal, right? It's a bit like Daigo. You know, like here's one of the most successful drifters of all time, doesn't even talk. You know what I mean? Like everyone now is so YouTube orientated, and this guy doesn't really talk English or Japanese.
Yeah.
And he's a mystery, and that's his enigma makes him popular, you know?
I was gonna say, you can't really think of any time you've seen Daigo or Nakamura talk. Both of them.
And they're so successful because I think there's an aura about something you don't know, you know? It's like, I think it's, we know everything about most of the drivers.
I think they succeed despite that, though.
Yeah, but they're very good
probably
drivers.
better off if, oh, I just spit. It'd probably be better off if they did talk in
Maybe, but I feel like, you know, with those guys, there's an aura of mystery. You know, like you don't know what they're thinking, you don't know what they're about, and they kind of, it's like the guy who makes all the Ralph Welch cars, you know? Like that guy sits there and smokes a cigarette, drinks his can of Coke and cuts the car up and everyone sits around watching it. You know, if he was talking all the time, maybe he wouldn't be as interesting. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that little bit of mystery.
He'd open his mouth and you'd be like, I'm over this.
Yeah, so maybe that little bit of mystery has worked for them in their favor. And I think
that's a good point.
It's yeah, they're kind of an enigma. Like you kind of don't know anything about them, even though you've known them in drifting for probably 15 years. But you know very little about them.
Huh.
It's weird, right?
All right, I'm doing so badly at this. I thought I was gonna rope him into something. He's done very well at evading.
I'm not evading. I'm not sure. I'd like to bring something to the table, so I'd like to think about it.
All right, he's got to think about it.
Not think about whether I want to go or not. Think about what I could bring to help you.
That's a good point. I was going to say, not everybody has to bring anything either. Like, you guys are super laid back.
We're
on
Irish,
this.
though. Our custom is if you go to somebody's house, you got to bring some food, you got to bring something.
Oh,
so
really?
that's kind of an Irish thing of like, we don't want to be there on anyone else's good graces. We want to be there like holding our own, you know, that we're an advantage.
I still think, though, that there's a lot of almost responsibility now with this type of stuff, whether it be whatever we're doing around the world. There's so much accidental, like say, Ben Hobson, you can see all these brand new Drift Week cars. Like people are going out and buying new Mustangs, you know, and they're buying all kinds of different cars. I can't fail them or whatever, if you know what I mean. You got to make sure they're entertained and like they're getting their money's worth. All you guys, all the foreigners have spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars coming to do this. It's wild. So I was gonna say, I need to make sure I do a good job.
You're doing a good job, and also I think if you put enough people in the melting pot, it's entertaining for all of us to talk to other people from other backgrounds. Yeah. We were with Ben and Seema, and we had a good time with him on a party night out, and he comes here and I'm like, me and James Deane are looking around his car going, I can't believe this is a 2022 Mustang, like out here just drifting around with all the rest of us. So, you know, we're entertained by what's different here. I think the conversations are always very, we do this and you do this and that's different, and people learn. And I think the thing about having James here, or having, you know, even influencers or, you know, like Jimmy Oakes or whatever, they can give a lot of knowledge to other people who are up and coming, you know, like they can spend their time in the evenings talking about, this is how I did this, and, you know, James can talk about car setup, or Jimmy Oakes can talk about how to get into YouTube or whatever. And then these guys who are coming here to try and emulate some of their success either direction, get that nice little bit of knowledge that they probably would never have got before in a casual setting, because they would probably be walking up for a photo with James Deane or with Jimmy Oakes rather than a conversation. So I think you hear a lot of that go on in the background in the pits, and I think sometimes the pits at these events is just as much an entertainment product as the track is. You can only drift for so long in the day, because otherwise, or in my case, 10 laps and fix it again. But it's a case of, I think, the mix of cultures really works for everybody here. And I think when we looked at the LZ Festival, there was like 15 different countries worth of people came to that event. In the grid, you had guys that were in my Irish Championship, my UK Championship, my Drift Masters Championship, the Formula Drift Championship, you know, them all mixing and talking and having a good time. So I think it's like a social with a fun, sort of laid-back sense to it, which I think everybody likes. And again, remember, people give out about a lot of things, but very rarely people give out about the price of a good night out. Because they're like, I had a good time.
Is that a saying?
No, I just made that up.
You're just like, I just made that up.
But very, very few people will have a great night out and go, oh, you know, what?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you're having a good time, you don't really worry too much about the money if you have it.
I just worry about, like, say, the cadence of all this. Like, we started the last one with the LZ party, we make it huge. Like, you know, this is extreme different than the last one. I think about, I need the cadence of the next one to start off super hard, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And I think about that back and forth and everything, but also at the correct scale that the venue can hold, and, you know, all these different things.
Well, hype is difficult, and also being creative all the time is difficult. It's like you said before, like you build something and it's huge, and people are like, great, what's next? Yeah. You know, and then you go to that level and you're like, oh, I'm stuck up here at this level now. You know, so if you have, like, in my opinion, I've done it with Irish Drift Championship or with Drift Masters and stuff where you're like, right, we really hit the heights there. Where do you go from here? Even with an LZ festival in Ireland, you go, we break the attendance record, this is the biggest event in Europe, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, well, I can only, like, why would a guy come to the next one if it's not bigger than this? And how do you make it bigger? So it is the challenge constantly to reinvent the wheel, even though what you're doing at its core is still very interesting and very difficult to do. And what a lot of people probably don't realize who watch these videos is, you did the first Drift Week and it would have been stressful. And now you do the sixth, right? You still have everything you did at the first one, but now you're trying to do 10 more things on top, more videos, more interaction, more rental cars, more everything. Yeah. And it's not like you trebled you in that time and you still have to treble the work. So there's a limit, but I think the collaborations worked really well in the past. I think I like the way you're already thinking about the next thing while you're doing this thing. That's always a positive. And to be honest, everyone here is having a great time so far. Everyone's just chilling out. So I think people can be quite self-amused. There's drifting, there's partying. What more do you want? Yeah. Maybe you're harsher on yourself than you need to be. Look at that sad face. Sad face.
No, it's not that. It's like, I don't know what all this is supposed to be, if you know what I mean. Yeah. and you're always worried you're always worried somebody might want it to be different or have different expectations, and you're trying to meet all those things. And like today, like I said, it's just a drift day.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing crazy. It's relaxed. It's all these things,
which is
nice probably good. And I did that on purpose because I knew a lot of cars were going to fail on this trip, because like the James Deane car was just built and all the rental cars were just built. We're getting things sorted, and we're gonna, crescendo up or whatever. I don't know, I'm just thinking about Drift Week 7 already.
But I think you've got to.
It's way too soon.
You've got a star there. Now you've sprinkled a little bit more around it, and then you get your tracks together, and then you've got what people want from this.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you talk about internationals coming over here and spending lots of money, but remember, everything's an adventure to us. Even to be in Oklahoma, I would never be in Oklahoma ever. Like in my life, why would I ever be here? And I'm driving through the streets going, this is amazing. I'm here. I'm in Dallas. I probably wouldn't come here as a holiday destination, but I'm getting to see so much more. I'm over there chatting away with other guys about the parts I need for my car. Everyone's helping everybody. It's good laughs in the pits. People are talking about different events they've seen each other do over the year. Everyone's having a good time because they want to, because it's a break. It's an escape from reality.
That's a good point. They want to have a good time.
They want to have a good time. You just don't get in the way of it, and then it's perfect. And you're not, because you're letting everything free flow.
Yeah.
Everybody have a good time. Everyone's out drifting. And I said, it's smiles all around today. Even the guys who break know there's so many more days, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Whereas if this was just your track day, and I'd broken down after, say, 10 laps, I'd be like bummed out, because I'd be like, oh, I missed my opportunity. But I'm like, no, tomorrow I can just wake up, fix the car, and do a whole day, and it's perfect. So you're giving everyone a little bit of time to just have fun without it being like, you don't have fun by 6 o'clock, that's the fun over. So I like that.
That's funny. All right, I think I bugged him enough. Do you have one good idea for me for that Honda Musselman event?
I think if you did a backwards entry competition between Nakamura and James Deane, you'll sell the place out. A grudge match.
That's a really good idea.
A grudge match. Or you could
there we go, we had a good idea.
Or a best of 7.
Cut that in at the beginning
best
so it sounds
of 7
like we did
head-to-head James Deane and Nakamura, who is the most stylish drifter on the planet. Now
you're a good showman.
Now you're starting to think. Whoa.
You know what's good though about that? Is you're good at thumbnails. And if you could, the concept of the thought and like simplifying something down. Like if I put this as like chat with Dave Egan, whatever, it wouldn't get as many clicks as if we came up with the idea of like, I don't know how I'd say it, but Nakamura versus James Deane, backwards entry contest, blah, blah, blah. That would get a million
but
clicks.
James Deane versus Nakamura, settling who's the best drifter in the world, best of 7 battles, judged by whoever, and for fun.
I like this.
But you put the two of them up against each other, and I'll sit there for an hour watching those two boys go at it and not have a big competition.
Do you think they would, or they'd get all fussy about it?
No, I think they'd want. I think there's a secret little level. You could sprinkle in Luke Fink in there if you wanted to, but you could also say like the guys that are.
Can't make his head too big.
Yeah, but if you were looking at the guys around the world saying, will we ever see Nakamura and James Deane battle? The answer is no, probably. Or if it does, it'll be under whatever circumstances. But if you put the two of them here in borrowed cars, even terms, and you say, right boys, here's the track, go at it, best of 7. I mean, I'd sit there with a beer and watch that and think this is the greatest stuff ever. So if you wanted a little like...
That's good. See, he gave us an idea. It didn't involve him though. He needs to get in there
I would say
somehow.
everyone in the comments, if they heard James Deane was going to take on Nakamura at your event, head to head, everyone would be pumped.
This is why you make the big money.
I don't make that big of money, but...
You make the big money.
I make some money, but I think that's the thing. It's like, what? But you know what's easy? I just go, what would I want to see? Like, I would love to see James and Nakamura battle. Everyone would. And it would never happen unless you had the two of them in the same place. And all you got to do is twist a few arms and get them there. And they're coming for fun anyway.
Yep. Just got to make sure they're happy with their cars and all that stuff.
Yeah, but they'll have testing during the day, so you can say to them, right, get yourself ready.
I like this. That was a really good idea. By the way, this was a complete success if this works, and like that's our idea off of this video. He badgered on for 20 minutes, and then I finally twisted his arm, and he gave us an excellent idea.
So James Deane versus Nakamura, and I'll announce it for the 5 battles, so I'll scream the place down.
That would be
get everybody
good.
Hyped. And then everyone will just ask the one question out. They want to live stream it because they'll want to see that everywhere.
I think we got to end on that.
Yeah,
that was a good job. Next time I'll get him for one more good idea. I have to, Sai, cut that little piece out so I remember in editing. All right.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me about that stuff.
No problem, anytime, man.
There's very few people, again, that you can talk to about this stuff that host events and everything. And this stuff, like, you laugh at me doing this, but like, we really do just come up with ideas and then execute them. You know what I mean?
That is my most, I admire that to the high heavens. Sometimes your ideas, how quick you go from idea to reality, it frightens me.
I have to, I throw so many events.
But you just 600 events a year, so I have more time to think.
Yeah, no, it's good though. That was really, really good. That was a tiny inspiration. I also, man, a lot of the times like James Deane is here, I'm like, that's enough. I don't push him to do anything.
I'll push him if you want.
No, but you know what I mean? I don't think to push people like that because he just wants to be on vacation, is doing his thing and everything. But to have that idea and then just like kind of execute is a really, really good idea. And I need to do that more.
Well, he'll think it's fun. He'll think it's fun.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Ooh.
And don't forget, you can join us for Public Days on Drift Week 6. Grand Sports Speedway, we're allowing spectators and extra drivers because it is round 6 of Lone Star Drift. So if you want to come ride with the drivers in their drift cars, meet them, have fun, just check out the cars, come have some fun.